Have you ever wondered how the mightiest football nation, the land of Pelé, Ronaldo, and Joga Bonito, could fall from its throne? Brazil, once the undisputed king of world football, has faced crushing defeats and struggled to reclaim its former glory. What happened to the magic, the flair, and the dominance that captivated millions? For a very long time, Brazil has been considered the spiritual home of football. The country has garnered a reputation for having a winning attitude, unrivaled flair, and spectacular skill. However, throughout the course of the past few years, Brazil has been confronted with considerable challenges on the world scene, a circumstance that has left both fans and opinion leaders bewildered. This video investigates the elements that are believed to be contributing to the decline of Brazilian football. This is the golden age of Brazilian football. In 1958, a squad captained by Pelé, who was only 17 years old at the time, won their first World Cup, which marked the beginning of Brazil's domination in the sport of football. This identity was exemplified by the well-known Joga Bonito, beautiful game, style. The victories that Brazil achieved at the World Cup in 1962, 1970, 1994, and 2002 cemented the nation's status as the most successful football nation on the entire planet. A generation of remarkable players who are frequently considered to be talents that only come around once in a lifetime characterized this age. On the other hand, as the game progressed in the 21st century, cracks started to develop in Brazil's supremacy, which resulted in a string of failures on the international scene. This is the turning point in Brazil's struggles in modern football, the progression of tactics from a flamboyant approach to a more rigid one. There has been a movement toward data-driven methods, heavy pressing, and physicality in football during the past 2 decades, which contributes to the tactical revolution that has taken place in the sport. Once upon a time, Brazil's dominance was a result of their emphasis on individual brilliance. However, this strategy has become increasingly difficult to implement against well-prepared European competitors. One of the most apparent examples of this trend is the 7-1 defeat that Brazil suffered at the hands of Germany in the semi-final of the 2014 FIFA World Cup, which was held on Brazilian land. Not only did this encounter put an end to Brazil's hopes of winning the World Cup, but it also served as a symbol of the country's inability to adjust to the contemporary game. Downward trends in the domestic football scene. The domestic leagues of Brazilian football, which were once a breeding ground for talent of world-class caliber, have also been confronted with difficulties. There have been a number of factors that have led to the decline in the quality of local competitions, including economic instability, corruption within football administration, and the general globalization of the sport. This is because Europe offers these advantages. Despite the fact that this trend has made it possible for individuals to achieve success, it has also had the effect of weakening the cohesiveness of Brazil's national team. In addition, the departure of talented players has resulted in Brazilian clubs losing their competitive strength, which in turn has diminished their capacity to cultivate future stars. The differences in economic status and the development of talent. The profound economic disparity that exists in Brazil has, for a very long time, been a double-edged sword for the country's football. On the other side, the country's capacity to cultivate the next generation of football players has been hindered by the lack of investment in grassroots football, particularly in areas that are economically disadvantaged. The youth development system in Brazil is still poorly organized, in contrast to Europe, which has made significant investments in youth academies and talent scouts. It is more difficult for the national team to compete with countries that have access to state-of-the-art facilities and scientific training methods because a large number of young players rely on informal, community-based efforts rather than professional setups. In the realm of football governance, there is corruption. Corruption has also been a problem in Brazilian football, particularly inside the Brazilian Football Confederation, CBF, which is the soccer governing body. A lack of long-term planning, decreased investments in infrastructure, and stagnation of domestic leagues are all results of this mismanagement, which has contributed to the stagnation of domestic leagues. The influence of Europe is a double-edged sword, as the saying goes. A significant impact has been made on Brazil as a result of the globalization of football. Although a great number of Brazilian players have flourished in Europe and gained expertise that is of great value, the fact that Brazil is so dependent on exporting talent has resulted in difficulties. In addition, the prominence of Brazilian players who are based in Europe has resulted in the national team becoming unduly dependent on stars who may not always be able to fit into a cohesive organizational structure. This dependence has resulted in fluctuating performances in key competitions, where the cohesiveness of the team frequently takes precedence over the brilliance of the individual. Changes in cultural norms and expectations are a topic of discussion. Additionally, Brazilian football has been subjected to a cultural shift in the manner in which the sport is played and regarded. The more conservative approach taken by the squad frequently leaves fans feeling disillusioned, especially those who grew up idolizing the flair of players like Pelé, Zico, and Ronaldinho. Player development has also been impacted as a result of this cultural shift. Now more than ever, young players are under an incredible amount of pressure to perform at a young age, and they frequently place more emphasis on their physical and tactical abilities than they do on their creativity and improvisation. Efforts to rebuild and indications of hope on the horizon. There is evidence that Brazil is making efforts to reverse its slide, despite the difficulties that it is currently facing. The meteoric ascent of young players with exceptional skill, such as Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, and Endrick, provides optimism for a more promising future. In addition, Brazilian coaches are increasingly looking for opportunities to get experience in other countries and understand contemporary strategies and methods. It is possible that this exposure will assist in bridging the gap between Brazil's traditional style of football and the requirements of modern football. A nation at a crossroads. The perceived decline of Brazil's football team is not the product of a single issue, but rather the outcome of a complex interplay of many different obstacles, including those that are economic, cultural, and tactical in nature. A mix of strategic planning, investment in grassroots development, and a commitment to conserving the essence of Joga Bonito will be required in order to make the climb back to the top. Brazil has the potential to once again become the global powerhouse that it was always supposed to be if it places a renewed emphasis on cooperation and innovation. If you love deep dives into football's biggest stories and want to stay updated with more exciting content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Join our growing community and never miss a beat.